From the Republic of Belarus, Ms. Larysa Belskaya. Sorry.
Thank you, moderator. Microphone, please. Sustainable development of MICs deserves the serious attention by the international community. MICs, I'll use the acronym, are the only category of UN member states that are not included in the systemic work of the organization and not having a coordinated assistance mechanism from the UN development system. To date, we're talking about 105 to 108 countries where you have most of the global population, 75%, which account for more than a third of global GDP and a quarter of global export and import. In defining these countries as MICs, most often we use the classification of the World Bank based on the per capita GDP. The justification of this classification is somewhat arbitrary because if you look at these countries, it seems that the population of the least prosperous of these MICs is 12 times poorer than the higher income MICs. The major practical application of this classification is to determine the eligibility for preferential financing by the World Bank. Although recently and in the long term, there's a lack of resources for financing developments and a lack of decisions on the advisability, maybe not advisability, but just the idea of technical assistance from the UN. In practice, the use of this criteria often means that once a country becomes MIC, that they're left alone with their own development problems and they have no chance of receiving the requisite support from outside to deal effectively and promptly with their problems. As you know, the criteria of the per capita GDP is of limited significance both in assessing poverty and for the effective measurement of progress for MIC development. And so the group of like-minded countries for MICs created in 2016 by the UN has been calling on the development system to develop criteria to assess development progress which would transcend per capita income and would take into account life expectancy, institutional people living in poverty, vulnerable groups, unemployment, institutional development, technological progress, and other indicators. We are assured that these elements would help the UN development system develop adequate and timely measures to help MICs based on priorities and the needs of specific countries so there will not be greater poverty. A serious problem for MICs is still the level of internal inequality. This problem in MICs is more severe than in other categories of countries, although there are some exceptions. For example, our country, Belarus, has a very low level of income inequality. Among the challenges faced by MICs is the vulnerability to external factors, urbanization, environment, and in some countries even sovereign debt. Why should the UN system support MICs? First of all, such support provided on a systemic basis could help these countries free themselves from external assistance, and for some countries even make them donors for the development of LDCs. One of the key goals of the SDGs is poverty reduction. MICs now have the most poor people, 71%. And continuing inequality of MICs threatens not only the sustainability of their own development, but achieving SDGs globally. And so any UN strategy for poverty reduction, or any regional strategy to reduce poverty, must include a support strategy to reduce poverty in MICs nationally, and in some cases in bigger countries, even subnationally. And secondly, sustainability of MICs is important not only in and of itself, but for neighboring countries. As regional centers or regional polar poles of development, MIDs could play an important role in supporting the poorest countries, helping neighboring countries who are in a situation of unexpected political crisis or military conflict, or have become victims of natural disasters. In such cases, having a socioeconomically and politically stable MIC neighbor next door could have a positive effect for specific countries who are in crisis and for the regional situation overall. MICs can play an important role in poverty reduction and ensuring stability by providing opportunities for mutual trade, for filling the market with basic necessities, prompt humanitarian and technical assistance, etc. And number three, MICs make a significant contribution to the global reduction of CO2 emissions. They participate in global peacekeeping operations, and some of them even have their own assistance programs to developing countries. I will finish. So what assistance would we like from the UN? We're sure that assistance, the UN system should understand what are the problems of MICs so as to give them a coordinated support so they can achieve SDGs. And so we need to do research, and according to the SG's reports, at a minimum, we need a strategy, a comprehensive and long-term strategy, as well as a coordinating mechanism to implement it through UN agencies. So in conclusion, I would like to say that MICs and their sustainability is an important element in dealing with global sustainability. Thank you very much.